What's good? It's your boy Logic back in here with another video. Nightcap session, right? I'm about to be getting ready going to work soon, waiting on my boss. They running a little late, but we'll see what it do. And I'm just here to talk about She-Hulk, but not but a more general thing with it as far as like geek culture and stuff right there. So as far as I know, with the She-Hulk show, um, we kind of understand like what its purpose is, right? Um, it's typically basically it's a female version of a male character, which is fine. It's in the comics, whatever. But typically, there's not too many very very popular characters that can stand on their own. That's not really a clone of another existing character. But we do have to realize that these characters were made for boys slash men or whatever. And typically, you want your readers to kind of see themselves in the character. So generally, it makes sense that a lot of the best characters or whatever are men. All right. And then typically, even when they did create female characters, what were still for men, they made them very sexy, very sensual, whatever characters. Now, for the most part, most of these characters have pretty decent backgrounds, origin stories, but you could probably make an argument that the best origin stories came from men, whether they thought that women didn't need the best of the best type of origin story because they were kind of there for maybe eye candy or whatever whatever the case may be. But ultimately, these characters did become into their own. They became popular and they became part of the cast or whatever, right? So that to me is kind of like how the inception of the female characters and whatever, right? But these things existed in a very small sector, which was like the geek culture, which typically, if you were someone that was into this stuff, you were kind of on the outskirts of the community. Like you had to enjoy your whatever, your hobbies, away from everybody else because people would make fun of you. People would be questioning like, why are you into this stuff and all this other stuff like that. So back in the day, you couldn't just be outwardly, forward about the stuff that you're into. Like what you would hope to do, especially if you're trying to talk to girls, you'd have to try to, make yourself seem cool, whatever. Maybe let's say you can get her attention. She starts maybe liking you. And then you had to ease her into some shit. And then she'd have to kind of just come across you playing with like Magic the Gathering cards or Pokemon or reading comic books or whatever the case may be. It just wasn't outwardly accepted. Now, as far as today is concerned, Hollywood has sucked dry just about every property that exists out there. The only thing left was the geek culture, to like really dive deep into that, where you're starting to see a lot more fantasy shit being made, a lot of more comic book movies being made, and all this other stuff, right? And it shined a light on geek culture, which is great because whereas you used to be kind of like an outcast, you're kind of being more included, inclusivity as they would put it, right? And that felt great, but then you started to see well, at least from the the geek standpoint, like you kind of see like a fake fandom, right? They're the fans of the show, but they're not really fans of the source material. They don't really care about the lore that much, all this other stuff like that. So when we saw people loving, like the Marvel movies and stuff like that, it's like, well, we've been loving it for the past 10, 20 years. It's cool that you're into it, but you don't have that deep connectivity that we have to it. But it's okay. We got more people we can talk to about things, open up some conversations. That's fine. Then we started getting into the current day politics as far as the ideologies and the gender bendings and the woke shit and all this other stuff like that, the minority stuff, whatever, right? Now, you do got to take in mind that the comic books were probably generally made for white folks. It was made by white folks, for white folks, but they probably didn't care who bought the shit. Of course, they started putting in black characters and stuff like that, but I'll say like this. I typically never really had that feeling where I needed to see more black characters in my comic books at all ever since I was young. Now, that doesn't mean when I do see a black character, I don't try to give it a shot or give it that extra attention. But typically, you cared about the character for what they stood for. You know, so really it didn't like, unless you bring it to someone's attention about the whole race stuff like that. Usually it doesn't really become that much of an issue. You know, we were already an exclusive group as it is. We didn't need to try to break that shit down even further. But now the geek culture is made palatable for general consumption. So what they did is, okay, we see these little political movements and all this stuff like that, and we actually have properties that have been doing pretty well, and we got a foothold in the industry. So we can start pandering to certain groups, and then we can kind of gain control of those certain groups because they feel like we're doing them a favor by, oh, okay, we can make a show with an Indian character in there. Okay, now they're see that it hasn't really been done that much, and we did it, and oh, we're gonna change these white characters to black characters because we know that black people think that they're not in any movies, and these trolls are now black, and like whatever, like you're starting to input this shit, right? And then we come to She-Hulk, where they're overtly saying that men are trash, men are shitty, men are predators, men are goofy and dumb. They really don't, they're really not seen in a good light. Now, you can make the argument that in the past, in the masculine movies and stuff, maybe, the girls were just used as sex objects, they were damsels in distresses and all this other stuff like that. And this is where I have a problem, because I get it if you were to make that point. And what you would do is you'd be, quote unquote, fighting for fairness and maybe to be treated on an equal footing or whatever. And what typically happens is when you give the other side an opportunity to do whatever they want, they do the exact same shit that you did, just with the shit flipped. So now, all right, the girl's in the lead role, but all the men are the dumb, bumbling idiot. I'm like, what? I'm like, I thought y'all said y'all didn't want to be seen this way. But then you take the opportunity to do the same shit to the men that you supposedly say that the men did to the women. And this is what I come to understand, that when these groups start shouting about fairness and all that stuff like that, what they really want is revenge. What they really want is the opportunity to do the same shit you did to them to do to you. That's really what it's about. It's not about fairness. It's not about this, not about that. It's just like feminism and stuff like that. It's not really about trying to get equal whatever. It's really about revenge. Because when women start making more money, they typically want a man that makes the same amount of money, if not more. But then when men were making all the money, they didn't care if the woman made as much or if they made more. So when we had the economic leverage, we didn't look for certain things in women that the women are looking for when they have the economic leverage. So they still want us to, in some degree, to have economic leverage after we've put programs and stuff in place to boost y'all up. So what I would say is that if y'all feel like y'all are out earning men, maybe y'all should put programs and stuff in place to boost us back up. But they don't want to boost us up because this is a whole revenge thing. They don't really want equal anything. What they really want is to, hey, we feel like you put your boot on our neck, so we want to put our boot on your neck. But we're going to hide it behind the guise of, oh, we want fairness and all this stuff like that. And that's typically the whole culture in a nutshell. The people who are underprivileged and this and that, really trying to find a way to get an advantage so they can exact the same type of dominance that they supposedly say that we had over them, over us. Right? That's just really what it is. You can hide it, dress it up all how you want. Now, that's kind of how what She-Hulk is coming off as. They're the way they portray men or whatever like that. Now they try to hide it under some comedy veil where you just trying to be funny, blah blah. But here's the thing: the show is not funny. And unpopular opinion, cancel me if you want to. Women typically aren't the funniest. And what's funny with this whole ideology BS is that if it's a female show, they want it to be a female director, female writer, female script designer, whatever the fucking thing is, right? They gotta have it all female. So just like if it's a black show, you gotta have a black director, black writer, but I like Black Panther was made by Stan Lee, a white dude. But now every time you see a Black Panther book, it's gotta be a black writer, gotta be a black artist or whatever. I'm like, what the? I'm like, look, just give me the best people for the job and tell the story, right? That's all. I don't need you to do all this. Like, you fucked up the IP. You've diluted it down to try to make it palatable to the general audience, and now us, the original fans, are watching our shit turn into trash. The Lord of the Rings fan, like, you can call it toxic fandom, whatever the case may be, because it swings both ways. Whether there's people praising shit for its wokeness and it's trash, people downvoting it because of its wokeness because it's trash. Like, it is what it is. Like, some people can't take L's online, and they can really act out and act crazy online because they're not in front of anybody within arm's reach where you'd actually have to fight for your beliefs. It's easy to fight on a keyboard, but it's very hard to fight in person. And what's happened is social media has turned everybody into whiny pussy bitches. So if, like, hell, even when I try to express my opinions in person, whether it be at work or whatever like that, if we get into some type of social topic, people be feeling uncomfortable. People don't want to. People try to exit out of the conversation fast, not slow, because I can hold you accountable. I can force you to defend your beliefs, and what happens is you can't just rage quit like you can online. You know what I'm saying? I can back you into corner with some facts, some thought, some thought processes and whatever. And what happens is, they kind of walk away. Well, I ain't trying to talk about it right now, whatever, Mike. And that's typically how people are in real life. They'll be a keyboard warrior online, but then don't know how to speak or do shit in person. And that's basically, in a nutshell, it has cultivated a type of culture where we have no backbone. We're looking for an enemy that for us to, like, cry about, so we can use the victim angle as an empowerment tool, where it's funny because there's more power in being a victim than being a savior or whatever. It's weird because they use the victim narrative as a protective shield to where you can't hold them accountable. You can't question their stance or anything because they're a minority, victim, whatever. I'm just like, all right, this is crazy. So, like I said, slowly but surely, the Marvel IP is probably going to fall and degrade back into what it was, mainly probably a comic book thing, until that goes digital, and then it fades into myth and legend. And I can always look back and be like, I remember when Captain Marvel or Captain America and all this stuff used to be a thing. And I can look at my grandkids and be like, yeah, y'all missed out on good times. Now, my grandkids will probably be jacking their head into VR and shit and living in digital worlds at that point. But I remember when we had actual physical paper in our hands, and flipping a book and actually turning pages. They're like, "What's a page?" Oh, okay, But no, it used to be this thing where it was, with the trees that you outside, there used to be this thing called paper that was made out of the trees that you had. And we had to actually flip those pages. Oh, for real? Like, oh yeah, I mean, just got a tablet. I was born with a tablet in their hand, so they don't know anything. They just know about, like, a screen, So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole She-Hulk thing. Like, you can kind of see where they're going with it. Okay, my boss just showed up. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. It's been a minute since I posted, but it is what it is. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.